Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping our community grow their own businesses. I'm your host, the one and only Iron Mike Steadman, coming to you from Newark, New Jersey, joined by my co-host, Miss Amy Morrison, and our guest today from the trenches of Miami, Mayorga Castaneda from Amore Umbrella. What's going on, y'all?
Hi, thank you
Morning.
for having me.
Yeah, we love. No, we don't shy away from grassroots entrepreneurship on here. New York is doing some amazing stuff down in Miami. She's got a great brand that we're excited to get into. I know a lot of you all are trying to sell products direct to consumer, whether from pop ups or leveraging e-commerce. So today's episode is going to be really beneficial for a lot of you all. So before we jump into a more umbrella, I would like to go ahead and pass it to my co-host, Amy.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so kind of the same as we've talked about the last couple weeks. So we still got the United Miles on a Mission campaign that's going on for another month or so. And that if you are
The
United
more
Miles
umbrella. Sorry about
flyer,
that.
you can donate your miles to help us send our ambassadors to their annual summit in June. That is at the donate.mileageplus.com and some stuff. We'll put the link in the chat. And then breaking barriers and entrepreneurship applications are still open. They close tomorrow, so this is your last chance to get in on this cohort that starts on January 23rd. So apply today at bunkerlabs.org/breaking-barriers. And then finally, check out our communities page on the website for any local events happening near you. And that is about it.
I want to give a shout out to everybody tuning in. Linda, always a pleasure to see you. Elijah, what's going on, my man? Who else we got here? Good morning from Louisiana. Josh, what's going on, my brother? Always appreciate you tuning in. Love the energy, love the engagement. As we're talking today, if you have advice or feedback, please go ahead and drop it in the chat. We really want to make this an empowering session for Nayorka and also for you all that are tuning in. So without further ado, couple quick things. Number one, for those of you that are looking to raise startup capital, the Military Veteran Startup Conference is coming up. I'll be there. It's February 3rd and 4th, I believe, in San Francisco at the Marine Memorial Club. We can pass some information around that, but that's a great resource. In addition to that, our man Keith Capel and Carrie put together an amazing blog post on funding opportunities, grant opportunities for early stage founders, right? All the pitch competitions, everything is in one source of truth on a blog. So make sure you check that out. And Erica, I want you to apply for the Breaking Barriers in Entrepreneurship. I think that'd be a great program for you and a lot of y'all that are tuning in. So make sure you take advantage of it. But we're here to talk about Amore Umbrella. So please introduce yourself to everyone and let us know the biggest challenge you're facing coming out of 2022 and heading into the new year.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yorka. I'm an Army veteran. I'm also the creator of Amor Umbrella. One of the biggest challenges I have is raising awareness about what I do and what I do it. You know, I want to reach anybody that resonates with my cause because I think it's very dear to my heart. And I think it's about bringing hope and helping others finding a new mission
Love
right
it.
after the military.
Yeah, a lot of us as vets, we come into this entrepreneur arena not just for monetary returns because we're trying to help people. And entrepreneurship is one of the ways we're able to do that by giving back, start nonprofits, etc. So really want to help you with that. So let's take it back one step. Describe to us what Amore Umbrella is. So I want your one-liner and in your mind, who you think your perfect customer is. I'm gonna tell you why.
So Amor Umbrella, what Amor Umbrella does is it helps veterans and the family members to start businesses and also finding a way to validate the ideas because we all have ideas. We all get a little lost after we leave out of the military, and entrepreneurship is one of the ways to find a new way to serve or a new way to find a purpose. So I'm a big believer in that, and that's what we do. And like I say, the perfect customer is that veteran family that is just trying to launch the ideas because we all get ideas, but sometimes we don't know how to implement it. You
So
know,
how do you actually go about helping veterans?
with counseling, I also have I do consulting, but I also have my shows, and I
Yeah,
try to inspire ideas in people, and bringing the right people to the table, like you do, that can inform them, and can give the resources that they need. We have a lot of resources, but sometimes we have a lack of knowledge where those resources are. So
understand. All right. So every bit of advice I'm going to give today, okay, I want you to take it. I don't want to say necessarily with a grain of salt, but you don't have to implement it all. These are just my recommendations. Okay. I think one of the first things is thinking through the name. So when you say a more umbrella, I'm immediately thinking that you're selling umbrellas of some sort, like through an e-commerce brand or something. But the fact that you provide counseling and coaching and all these different things, it doesn't exactly make it easy for me to understand that. And so now with so much noise online, people always trying to sell us through ads and everything, clarity is going to be a superpower. So what you want to do is in the naming of your company, I recommend, especially since you're a small business owner, I recommend it be suggestive in some way. So, for example, my company is Ironbound Media, right? So you can determine that there's a media play, whether it's podcasting, video content, etc. My nonprofit is Ironbound Boxing. So you can assume it has something to do with the sport of boxing. So when you have a more umbrella, it can be a bit confusing for people. Okay. So there's one thing right there. And that's really important for a lot of you that are tuning in, because if we spend a lot of time thinking we're going to force our companies and our services on the market, but what we have to do is we have to understand the frame of reference from a customer's perspective, because they're going to position
right.
our companies in their own way. So without you saying anything, they hear a more umbrella, they're going to probably think of you as some kind of e-commerce brand. And so that's not what we want. Okay. So my recommendation is first, think through the name change. Okay. The second thing we got to talk about is positioning. So, and I remember when I was first entering the bunker, this was super frustrating for me. You say, oh, well, everyone is my customer, right? But in reality, we can't serve everyone because we're not fit to serve everyone. Like if somebody is in Antarctica, right, it's probably hard for you to give them business coaching and counseling, etc. But if someone was local in Miami, right, in either a county or something, that's probably a little bit easier. And so what we want to think about is um, even before we get to marketing, right, we need to position our products and product or services in a market with strong demand. This is really important. Okay. Your customers have to be able to afford you. So if you plan on charging a premium, right, for your coaching and your counseling and stuff, etc., let's say you charge $100 and engage $100 for 1 hour. Ideally, let's say it's $500. Okay. There are people that have to be able to afford to do that. So if you're talking to entrepreneurs that are making less than $5,000 a year from their business, they can't afford to pay you for coaching. Okay. So you want to position your product, I mean your offerings in a strong demand. So think about, and let's just think out loud, like what kind of spaces, right? Let me ask you this: how much do you charge for coaching?
From That's about right, 500, and
Okay,
we also have group memberships as well.
500 for an hour or 500 a month?
500 a month.
Okay, so 500 a month. Okay, so think about this: I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, I'm a small business owner, so I bootstrap. Most of y'all are barely paying yourselves. Let's be honest, right? So they have to have healthy cash. They have to be able to pay themselves, and then they have to be able to afford an extra $500 in business coaching. So typically, somebody around that, I'm just spitballing, probably needs to be making at least $60,000 plus in revenue. Probably gonna be easier sell because 500 for business coaching isn't really that bad. But I would target people that are making probably 60,000. So then you say, okay, well, what industries am I best fit to serve, right? So like me talking to you, chopping up with you, I love serving veterans. This is my tribe. That's why I go to MilVet conference and military startup conference, because I podcast. I want to get stories. I want to be a part of the community. Where is your tribe? And that's where you got to reverse engineer the process. Like, who are you fit to serve better than anyone else? I'm really good at brand strategy and podcasting for veteran owned businesses, but you might be really good at coaching for CPG founders, consumer packaged goods in the Miami area, that are on the cusp of $60,000 a year. You just need to get really tight about who you're serving. Boom. And then you can build the brand around that. So if you're serving people in Miami, right, I want Miami all over your branding and copy. When you speak and people say, what do? You provide business coaching and counseling for Miami veterans earning less than $60,000 a year in revenue or something like that. And it's going to make your focus a lot easier. Now, we talk about awareness, all right? Everyone's like, oh, I need to build awareness for my business. I need to get the name out there. Awareness for who? Because everyone isn't your perfect customer. The most impactful thing I do, and I literally have a meeting with my team today. We already did annual planning, but we're bringing it back for annual planning again. And my focus is on like 15 names. Like that's who we're focused on, right? So a lot of times we talk about I want to build awareness, but awareness for who? And ideally, it should be your perfect customer. And your perfect customer is someone that can afford to pay you a premium for your products or services, tells everyone how amazing you are, bringing you a constant stream of warm referrals. And most important of all, they actually make us enjoy being an entrepreneur. You don't want those customers that every time their phone rings or they send you an email, you feel sick. You're like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, right? So those are who we want to attract. And a lot of time for us, it's going to be through meaningful relationships, okay? So Nerica, I want everyone to write down this framework real quick, okay? 4-part framework. Number 1, connect. I just want you to connect with your perfect customer, right? Reach out to them on LinkedIn, send them a DM through social media, and just start talking to them. Don't try to sell them anything. Just start to build a relationship with them. Get the conversation going. Now, after you feel like you've built some rapport with them, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to invite them to a one-on-one, either over a phone call or over Zoom, okay? Now, if you're selling a product online, what you're going to do is you're going to send them a link. So invite them to check out, say, my book, right? Or your product or something. Send them the link, okay? Number 3, I want you to engage with them, right? So now you start talking more about, hey, this is what it would be like for us to work together. They're on that invite or they're looking at your e-commerce page or checking it out, right? I want you to talk to them about, hey, the benefits of this product or whatever with the intent that they purchase it. And then step 4, I want the purchase, right? I want them. So for your case, since you're coaching, you're going to send them a proposal. But for everyone else, I want you to propose. And this is something that I want you all to go back to over again and again, especially when you find yourself in revenue crunches, because it's easy to think like, oh, I need revenue. Let me go ahead and just make another social media post, right? No, what you're going to do is you're going to find people to connect with. You're going to invite them to a one-on-one, right? Or you're going to send them a link to your website, whatever it is. You're going to engage with them, and then you want them to purchase something for you. And you're going to repeat that process over and over again. And then here's the last thing, and then I'll answering questions from you. Lead generation is hard. It's really hard, like really, really freaking hard. Okay. But what you have to do is you have to stay consistent with it. So let's say, okay, I need to make, I don't know, you're doing coaching. You say you want to make $100,000 a year plus. Okay. Well, you need to spend a minimum of an hour a day focus on lead gen and going through that process I just talked about. Connect, invite, engage, propose. So an hour a day, you block off, cut the phone off, yada, yada, yada. And all you're doing is focus on lead generation, finding people that meet your persona to connect with. At the end of a week, that's 5 hours, right? At the end of a month, that's 20 hours, right? And so that's how you have to think about it. Like a lot of times people do scatterbrain stuff instead of building a system of like rain, sleet, hell, or snow. Every day, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the gym for 45 minutes. In our case, the revenue gym is lead generation. You got to get in there. You got to hit the weights every day, every day, every day, every day. And then you're going to get the results. Any questions based off of anything I just said?
No, that's right. I think lead generation is the backbone of your business, right? And
Yep.
we had to network. We had to network smart, like everything that we do.
So it's not just networking too, because you can network, but if they're not in your perfect customer persona, that might be a waste of time networking. And that's why people get frustrated. So I want to answer a question from Maria Ramos. If you're doing it part-time, if you're doing your business part-time, what are some things you could easily outsource? Marie, I have a virtual assistant. What I outsource a lot of stuff, but I would say the big thing is scheduling, right? Like having someone that can help manage your calendar so that way when you find people to connect with, right? And they've agreed to you inviting them on a one-on-one or whatever it is you're doing, having someone that can help you book those calls. So a lot of the little back-end administrative stuff. I don't recommend outsourcing lead generation, particularly for y'all that are early stage, because in the early stages, you really still don't know who your perfect customer is. You know what I mean? And so you're doing a bunch of stuff and then you hire somebody to be a digital marketer and just post all your social media content and yada, yada, yada. That's not really working. And people get frustrated, especially if you don't know your perfect customer is, because they're marketing stuff that's not even reaching them. Like if you as the founder can't close revenue, right? You ain't going to be successful as an entrepreneur. I'm just letting you know. And I'm not talking about you, New York. I'm just talking about everybody tuning in. Like as founders, CEOs, when it comes to validating our business models, before we hand it off, we've got to be able to close deals ourselves. We got to be able to look people in the eye, deliver value to them, earn their trust and credibility, and have them purchase our products and services. Like there's no way you can get around that. And when you accept that reality that like, look, I got to get good at sales, it's going to change your whole game. That was the biggest thing that helped me as an entrepreneur was stop hiding from sales. Pitching, all that other stuff is great. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to go out there and close clients.
That's right.
Linda says something really good. Since you're coaching, you have to have the passion to sell yourselves. You have to sell yourself early on because that's what they're trusting. So another thing that you have to think about is, okay, what is going to make someone feel confident that I'm the one to work with? So like I'm an entrepreneur in Miami. I find out about your company. You're going to rebrand it because I think a more umbrella is off the mark, right? But you're going to call it something else. And there's like, man, you got to talk to Nyorka. Well, I look on your website. What am I looking at? What am I seeing? I'm looking on your LinkedIn. What am I seeing? What is giving me confidence that you're the person for me that when I meet, I'm like, take my money. Now, you talked about previously that you have a background in logistics in the Army, correct? Logistics is a nightmare for a lot of entrepreneurs. It was a pain mailing these books out. It was terrible, right? So now maybe you craft your value proposition around your background in logistics. You tie in your experience in the Army, right? Maybe you write a quick little PDF or something that gives people advice on how to think about logistics for their small business. Now that's a different conversation. All right. You always want to put yourself in the best position to command authority. And one of the things we don't talk about a lot, and I have a book here, and I referenced it last week on Office Hours. It's called The Myth of the Idea and the Upside Down Startup. A lot of times we come with this great idea for a business, and we're like, oh, we're going to start with the problem, and we're come with the idea. But what we really need to do is we need to look around and say, hey, what resources do I already have? Like what social capital do I already bring? What networks do I come from? So we take that and then we say, okay, what can I realistically do? How much time can I dedicate to this thing? And then we get to the idea that makes the most sense. And so that's why I'm saying, look around and say, what can I already bring from an authority perspective based off of what I've already done? Like I don't have to write a book or anything yet, but let me just pull everything in. And then I want you to craft a strong value proposition around that.
Yes.
She's just like, yes. What other questions do you have? I know I threw a lot at you today. It's been a little bit of a fire hose. And now tuning in. What advice do you have and what questions do you have? I see my man Brendan Aronson tuning in. Stop hiding from sales, man. You can't do it. You have to sell. And selling is not sleazy. Selling is helping people. So ask yourself, who can I help? Start having these conversations. And then again, follow that framework. Connect, invite, engage, and propose. We got a LinkedIn user here that says, regarding engagement, I find that when I ask people what stops them in their track I find that when I ask people what stops them in their tracks during the day, it's a great way to find an obstacle I can help them overcome. Not necessarily my service, I just mean letting that person feel comfortable. 100%. And the other thing too is, when you ask people, "Hey, what's holding you back, or what challenge are you facing?" To don't just focus on, "Okay, this is gonna be the perfect client for me." You might help that person through your own network, like, "Oh, let me connect you with so and so, whatever," and then you build that positive energy, and then they're gonna look back, and then when they find out what you're struggling with, they're gonna connect you with other people. So that's the power of real networking. It's not just networking for the sake of networking. It's like finding out people you can help, connecting dots where they previously don't exist, and putting that positive energy into the universe, building an ecosystem to where when people come around you, you're like King Midas. Everything you touch turns to gold. They're like, "Oh man, you need to talk to Niorka. You need to talk to Niorka." Why do people say that? Because of the amount of people that you've helped, connected dots, yada, 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 etc. So before we go to book reviews, I want to recap.
Yeah,
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Norika?
I wanted to say, I wanted to add, yes, I wanted to add that you have to build a community around you that inspire you and that push you to keep moving forward. Because there's always going to be challenges back and forth, and there's going to be plenty of naysayers. So the same way that we had the body system in the military, use every skill that they teach you to build your next idea and to put it in march. Because idea is worth nothing until you implement it. So
100%. So I'm going to recap
you
real
know,
quick. Okay? First thing I want you to do is I really want you to consider a name change from our Amore umbrella, just because the positioning automatically is a little bit off to me. Okay? The second thing I want you to do is really find out who you can serve better than anyone else. And I want you to create a really tight value proposition. And in my mind, I'm thinking out loud, it's someone in your local area, veterans that are in your local area, earning a certain amount of revenue, that have some kind of logistical challenge that they need coaching through, that you can help them set the systems up, etc. Right? And again, this is me just thinking out loud. You need to create that framework, connect, invite, engage, and propose. And I just want 10 names. And every week, every day, you're going to dedicate time spent to connecting with 10 people. And you're going to allocate an hour a day towards that. And you will get a consistent pipeline of potential clients. So I hope that was super helpful. Now what we're going to do, we're going to transition to one of my favorite part of office hours, is book recommendations. Do you have any book recommendations for the audience today, Norika?
yes, I do. I actually, one of the books I wrote is called From Idea to Implementation, and it's about getting your ideas out of your head and kind of go through the brainstorming process and all the different process to implement those ideas and actually make it happen.
You
So
wrote the book?
I wrote the book,
Is it on
and
Amazon?
it's on Amazon, and it's a part of a series to help you start your business or whatever idea you have.
Okay. Now that I know you wrote a book, everyone you connect with, right? I want you to still invite them to that one-on-one with you. And before they come, as like, let's say, "Hey, yeah, I can meet next Wednesday," send them the link to your book. Because guess what? If I read your book ahead of time and I show up to a call, right, I'm going to be more sold. That's an easier sell. So we need to flood the market with the book, give talks, teach about it, whatever you got to do, but lead with that book. The minute someone says, "Hey, I'm interested in learning more," send them the book, and book a call. So I got two book recommendations.
Thank you.
If you haven't done so already, check out my book, Black Veteran Entrepreneur. It's also on Amazon. I got so many, I have so many great interviews and references from the Transition Podcast in this book. You don't want to miss it. This will teach you how to bootstrap your business to $100,000 plus. All right, next is Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. How to nail product positioning so customers get it, buy it, and love it. As veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses, we are terrible at positioning. It's not your fault. It's a learned skill. And a lot of times we're talking about business ideas and yada, yada, yada. We don't understand the frameworks and how to think about positioning. April walks the dog on how to do it in this book. Positioning is one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? A lot of y'all think y'all have a sales and marketing issue. You're not getting leads, right? Stuff's not working. You might need to look at it and realize and determine whether or not you have a positioning issue. And the best way I can describe it, in the book, she gives a story of this like world famous violinist, right? Who ends up playing at the Subway in New York City. Now, when he does the concert halls, he sells out at like $300 a ticket, packed auditorium. But when you put him in the New York City subway system and he's just there playing, he earned like $30. Why? Because it's positioning off. If I see you in the subway, I'm assuming that, like, I'm not assuming that you're some world-class violinist, right? I just assume that you're a homeless person that's looking for some change or something, right? Or have come on hard times just by where he's at. So you can take that same person and put him one place and he commands a premium rate. But if you put him in the subway system, he commands a cheap rate. And that's what a lot of y'all are doing with your products and services. They're positioned bad. They might be positioned in places where there's no way you're going to earn revenue. And I promise you this, you can be the best entrepreneur in the world, but if your positioning is off and there's no demand for your products or services, you will fail. I promise you. So check it out. Obviously Awesome by April Dunford, mandatory book on positioning. And it's ironically, I just did an episode on the Transition podcast last week about do you know your category? And that's really positioning. Like, what category are you in? So check out that podcast, read the book, and shoot me any questions you have on LinkedIn. Before we go, I had a LinkedIn user. She says, what's the 4-step framework? I'm going to go through it one more time. And this comes from Rich Litvin in his book, The Prosperous Coach. Number 1, connect. So connect with a prospect. Number 2, invite them to a one-on-one, right? Engage. So now you're talking to them, you're engaging, you're getting them, letting them experience what it is like to work with you. And then number 4, propose. So this is where you send that proposal, right? If you're professional services, you encourage them to buy, you go for the sale if you're selling a product or service. But I always go back to that. So I hope that was helpful. Really appreciate the engagement this week, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors for the Transition Podcast, MetLife Foundation, for making that show possible, and all the amazing work they're doing to support the veteran, entrepreneur, and military spouse ecosystem. So, Nayorka, it was a pleasure having you on. We're rooting for you. You got this.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone, peace, love, and have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you for having